EA Sports Zindergreed. FIFA. It is one of the most infamous franchises in the video games industry. It is known for its greed, for its laziness, for its broken launches, and, well, with FIFA 20 on Switch, it would seem as though EA has taken all of these notions and realized them to the next level. But before we delve into that, just a quick reminder that even FIFA 20 on PS4, Xbox One, those are facing their own slew of issues. So there's stuff about career mode. Ultimate Team has its own slew of complaints. Stuff about the squad building user interface. There is just gameplay elements like goalkeepers who kind of punch the ball instead of catching them when they should be catching them. And then for FIFA Volta, which is sort of the FIFA Street style mode, not only do many deem it to be disappointing, it also will probably come with microtransactions at some point. It didn't launch with microtransactions, but when asked about that, all EA Sports had to say is, we have built the game so that in the future we could add in-game purchases if we felt they would add to the experience for players. No, you mean if they would add to the pockets of executives. So this stuff's bad enough, but in comes FIFA 20 for Nintendo Switch, and things just get worse. And this is titled FIFA 20 Legacy Edition. That's what the Switch version is called, and for good reason. So this right here is a review by IGN, one of few outlets who actually went out of their way to review the Switch version of this game. And the opening paragraph alone kind of tells you everything you need to know. This reads, "There's honestly no genuine reason I could give you to purchase FIFA 20 on the Nintendo Switch if you already own FIFA 19 on Switch. I don't generally share the sentiment of the crowd that labels sports games as the same every year, but when it comes to FIFA 20 Legacy Edition, all of the comment section tropes are valid. For a series already drowning in microtransaction debate, the Switch version really doesn't help EA's case in currying gamers' favor by essentially offering nothing but a bare-bones roster update for nearly the price of a full game. A macro transaction, if you will." Now, really quickly, I want to address this sentiment here that sports games are not the same every year. Well, the stance that I think a lot of people have is that there isn't enough of an upgrade. Obviously, there's some tweaks here and there, a few additions here and there, but they just feel like quarter step upgrades rather than a full step up. None of these sports games justify reselling a new entry for $60. You know, it just feels like it's just an update masqueraded as a brand new product. And when you're seeing games like, I don't know, like No Man's Sky, for example, had that Beyond update recently, that was a free update, and it feels more substantial than what FIFA 20 got from FIFA 19. So that's more the sentiment that people share. Yes, we know it's not exactly 100% the same from one year to the next, but they're similar enough that it doesn't feel worth the $60 price tag they charge every year to essentially wipe the slate clean for the microtransactions, so people have to gamble again to re-earn the players they earned last year. Now, when it comes to FIFA 20, the sentiment of sports titles are the same every year. That's pretty much fully realized here. Just about everyone agrees that FIFA 20 is basically a clone, a copy-paste job of FIFA 19 with like a new label slapped on there and with a few minor differences and an update for the roster. That's about it. So this segment's actually pretty great. So this reviewer basically took a quote from the FIFA 19 for Nintendo Switch review and just changed it up a little bit to express their sentiments on FIFA 20 because both games are so similar. And then the review said, "If you feel shortchanged by the fact that all I've done is changed a handful of small elements from the original version, mostly to change the date, then you know exactly how I felt when playing FIFA 20 Legacy Edition." That's a spicy excerpt right there. And yeah, that perfectly expresses many people's sentiments when it comes to FIFA 20. It's just a ripoff. And the fact that they're charging full price for it is all the more egregious. In fact, if you look at the Nintendo eShop page here, you can see that FIFA 20 for Switch costs a whopping $50. Is that just the digital version or also the physical edition? Let me check. 60. Yeah, no, that's $60 on Best Buy and on Target. It's $50 on GameStop. Essentially, at its core, it is very much a full price game. It should not cost $50 if it's really just a roster update of FIFA 19 and nothing more. Now the reviewer proceeds to state, quote, "To EA's credit, it has been wholly transparent about the nature of this version, including a name change and being upfront about what Legacy Edition actually means." So if we go to the official website of FIFA 20 Legacy Edition, in the FAQ section, you can see right here, this reads, "What is the FIFA 20 Legacy Edition?" The FIFA 20 Legacy Edition features updated presentation, in-game menus, and broadcast overlays, the latest kits and squad updates for the upcoming season, but no new game modes or gameplay innovations. And then down here, the FAQ reads, "Does gameplay in the FIFA 20 Legacy Edition vary from FIFA 19 on Nintendo Switch?" The response to that is the FIFA 20 Legacy Edition will feature the same gameplay innovation. I cannot believe they're actually using the word innovation in this scenario from FIFA 19 without any new development or significant enhancements. So they're not saying outright this is pretty much the same game as FIFA 19. They're just trying to word it in such a way that it doesn't sound so bad with all this fancy diction, but it's just a clone of FIFA 19. And IGN says here, to EA's credit, they disclose this. I'm sorry, but I cannot give EA any kind of credit for disclosing doing something that's kind of scummy, just reselling the same game. I mean, if a bank robber leaves a note saying, "Hey, I'm going to rob a bank tomorrow," and they carry that out, I'm not going to give them credit for leaving that note, because in the end, they just did something shitty. That's what ultimately matters. And not to mention that this is just found in the FAQ segment of this website, which most people are not going to check out. If you look at the packaging, I don't know if there's anything there stating explicitly that FIFA 20 is pretty much a copy-paste job of FIFA 19 with very minor tweaks that do not differentiate the two games enough. Now, IGN's review here does point out, quote, "On the other hand, EA still has the gall to charge $50 for it with no upgrade option for owners of FIFA 19. So if you already own FIFA 19, you can't just pay like, I don't know, $5 to get the new edition, which is not really all that new. Instead, they're just charging a full price for just one of the laziest game releases I've seen from a AAA company that makes billions off of the FIFA franchise and the Ultimate Team gambling bullshit. They cannot even be bothered with putting some effort into the Switch version despite all the money they're making from FIFA endeavors." And then the review talks about how there are FIFA 19 editions for the other consoles that are missing in the Switch version. So when FIFA 19 launched on Switch, one of the features that was missing is the first touch system that allows for the ball to be nudged in any direction with the right analog stick. So other versions of FIFA 19, so on PS4, Xbox, those versions had this feature. FIFA 19 on Switch did not have this feature. And even in FIFA 20 for Switch, they cannot be bothered to upgrade the clone of FIFA 19 up to a state where it at the very least completes last year's entry. It's still incomplete from a FIFA 19 standpoint, and when you just slap on the FIFA 20 label and don't even complete FIFA 19, I mean, that makes this all the more egregious. And then it highlights right here, without any major changes to the way you play the game, there just doesn't feel like there's anywhere near enough there to warrant a full release. And this is a sentiment many are sharing. And then right here, the review concludes with the following verdict. This year's subpar version of FIFA for Switch is almost indistinguishable from last year's subpar version of FIFA for Switch and embodies every bad thing you've heard about sports games recycling their content year after year, almost to the point of parody. The lack of additions to FIFA 20 Legacy Edition outside of its new, more honest name and its refusal to innovate either on or off the pitch are disappointing, even borderline insulting. This is surely not the legacy EA had in mind. So, while I disagree with a few little things that this review said, like giving EA any kind of credit and kind of underplaying the real sentiments of people in terms of what they think of sports titles, overall, I think this review is on point in describing exactly the kind of nefarious product this is, just how lazy and how little effort EA put into this release. And the thing that gets me about all this is that EA's explanation for their limited support for Switch is as lame as it gets. So Andrew Wilson said this back in, when was this? July 31st, 2019. So a few months ago, Andrew Wilson, when asked about EA support for Switch, he said, anytime we're evaluating platform conversations, we're really looking at a couple of things. One, does the game really fit the profile of that platform in terms of the control or the community ecosystem? Two, do we think the community playing on that platform would appreciate the game and go there, or would they prefer to play it somewhere else? We have a lot of data that would suggest a great many Switch owners also own a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One or a PC, and very often choose to play the games that we make on those platforms, even though they have a Switch and they enjoy a lot of great content on the Switch. Well, no shit, Sherlock. When you release EA games like this on Switch, just bare bones, lacking all of the modes that you'd expect, lacking any kind of upgrade, lacking any kind of effort, really, when it's just a clone of a previous entry that was already compromised, by the way. FIFA 19 for Switch was already pretty bare bones, but for them to not even put any effort into upgrading that already bare bones experience, you are really going to question why people play EA games on other platforms, which are already bad enough on those other platforms, but on Switch, I mean, they're just garbage. And EA has no excuse. Not only do they make a ridiculous amount of money, more money than most game companies in the world right now, when you've got CD Projekt Red porting Witcher 3 over from, you know, the PC, Xbox, PS4 version all the way to this little itty-bitty console, and it's fully fleshed out. It's the whole game, with the only compromise being understandable visual fidelity that's been kind of lowered because of Switch's more limited hardware. When you've got Bethesda outputting games like Doom on Switch with very little compromise, save for, again, visual fidelity and some frame rate stuff. When you've got all of these other companies producing amazing results on Switch and carrying the core of those experiences and translating that to Switch with no content compromised, yeah, I mean, they've already proven that kind of porting is possible for Switch. And those are far more intensive games than FIFA. So EA has absolutely zero excuse for their laziness, for their utter lack of effort. Either release a proper entry on Switch, or just don't even try. And when you do release half-assed garbage on Switch, don't sit there and talk about how, well, you know, people seem to gravitate towards PlayStation and Xbox and PC versions of our games for some reason. They're not playing the Switch version, so we just don't feel like it's worth supporting it. How about we turn that thinking around, support the Switch better, and then people might buy your games on Switch more. Gee, how crazy that train of thought is, huh? I don't know how EA can justify this kind of release. Sitting on a mound of cash, this is the best they can do. For a console that's proven to be able to port over some pretty intensive, graphical intensive experiences, carry over all of the content pretty handily, EA isn't even trying, and they expect people to pay full price for this kind of bullshit. I mean, this is greed and a lack of consideration, a lack of giving a shit about making fun games at its finest. Yeah, so this is where we're at with EA. Another just baffling release on their part. It's kind of become par for the course for this publisher. And now that I've shared my thoughts and opinions, I'd love to hear what your sentiments are on FIFA 20 for Switch, the Legacy Edition, in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update and discussion video. Thank you for tuning in. To be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.